If you've been going around the good old internet looking for the right podcast to fulfill your New York Yankees needs, well, I'll be the first to deliver the good news to you. You have found it. Here on Yapping Yankees with me, your host, Mike Scudero, you and I will be discussing the latest news, takes, and talk throughout the entire Yankee universe. Oh, and there may be some ranting on my behalf. Yeah. Anyway, what do you say we get to it? Let's get to yapping! Well, hello there, my fellow Yankee fans, and welcome to episode 228 of the Yapping Yankees podcast. As always, I am your host, Mike Scudero, your friendly neighborhood Yankee yapper with the best yap in all the land, here on July 28th, 2024, with yet another extra-large order, hopefully, unlike last week, of the Yappuccino. But guys, I actually want to start today's episode, and I don't want to spend too much time on this today like I did last week at the start of the show, but I do have to start it off this way because it's only right. But I got to start off today's show by thanking you all once again for the overwhelming amounts of love and support the last week since I announced what happened to me and my lovely girlfriend Victoria. Now 2 weeks ago, I can't believe how fast time goes, that the accident was 2 weeks ago now already, over 2 weeks ago, 2 Saturdays ago on the 13th. But ever since I revealed that it happened here on the show last Sunday in my returning episode since the accident had happened, obviously before I revealed it on this show, the only place I had revealed it publicly was on Twitter or X. So not everybody had even heard about it before I revealed it on the episode last week in my returning episode since the accident happened. But once I did reveal it on last week's episode and made everybody know, then that's really when everybody found out who didn't know already. So because of that, a lot more of an outpouring of love and support, even more so than already before, had come out, and I can't tell you how much it means to me, honestly. And I know it means a lot to Victoria, too, so thank you so much. If I'm being completely truthful with you today, last week I know I apologized because I felt like it wasn't one of my better episodes. If I'm being completely open and honest with you here today, 1 week later, I'm still not completely with it. And like last week, I just came back from another graduation party, and I was outside for a while, and it's really hot here in New York. I'm not complaining about the heat because I always say how much I love the heat, but still, outside, especially when you're not 100% yourself, if it is a scorcher, it is going to wipe you the hell out. And that's how it's making me feel right now. So I would be lying to you if I said that I'm 100% back to myself. I still am not, but that also does not mean that I'm still not going to give you the greatest episode I possibly can. So I'm going to do my best. Just be patient with me. Just trying the best I can, taking this week a week at a time. But I knew I could absolutely not miss today's episode because there's just simply too much going on. You have the trade deadline in a couple of days, and so much has already happened. There have been plenty of seasons in the past where not too much happens until it leads right up to the day of the deadline, and then it all just comes right out all at once. Everybody just bombards the trade market and makes all their moves on that last day. But in the last couple of days, this entire weekend more or less, some of the biggest names who are being thrown around for days now have already been dealt. Some make sense, some don't. That's the same dynamic as every year. So with Tuesday's deadline approaching, I knew I could not miss tonight's episode. Just, it can't happen. And obviously this was also just a putrid week for the Yankees, outside of last night's bonkers win. But outside of that, really ugly last week of Yankees baseball yet again as we move into it being about, I don't know, spanning about a month and a half's worth of just the worst kind of baseball you could watch. I would say with the exception of the Chicago White Sox maybe, but that's about it. Otherwise, the Yankees continue to be amongst the worst, if not the very worst, in almost any possible metric you can measure out of any team in the entire league. And obviously, the entire time I've been saying that I'm going to be patient and wait for the deadline, and I know we have heard this before, we have read this script before, we've seen this movie before, particularly in 2022, but starting hot, collapsing like the Roman Empire, praying for a good deadline to fix the many things that need fixing. Maybe you make it to the playoffs, which most oftentimes the Yankees do the last bunch of years, with the exception of last year. And obviously, we do not know how the rest of this year is going to play out and the rest of the year into the postseason, obviously, because it is yet to happen. But in years past, the the script that would follow is the Yankees making it to the playoffs, usually by wild card, except for the rare exception where they actually win the division, and then they just end up getting eliminated eventually anyway, usually in the CS, but sometimes even in the DS and wild card, depends on the year. But you obviously hope this year doesn't follow that script. I'm trying to be patient despite, again, having read this script and even seen this movie many times before. But I'm trying to remain optimistic, waiting for the deadline. The Yankees have already made a move, the Jazz Chisholm trade with the Miami Marlins. We will talk about it more later on. And they did have that crazy win yesterday, so you're hoping against all odds, especially considering the brutal road trip they're in the middle of. The Red Sox having the lineup they do and giving the Yankees the hard time that they've given them for over a month now. Every meeting they've had, this is their third meeting, second one at Fenway Park, and they've really given the Yankees a hard time. And then after this, the Yankees head off to play the best team in baseball in the Philadelphia Phillies. So, really tough road trip. And then in August, it eases up a bit. So, knowing that, and then some of the injury news we have coming up, a lot of it positive, you say maybe this team can turn it around. But my God, guys, has this last week been brutal. Oh, my God. Fortunately, the series against the Rays, like I was praying for last Sunday, actually managed to wrap up nicely on Monday with a nice victory to at least split, even though they definitely should have won at least 3 out of 4 against them, especially because it was in the Bronx even more so. Then they just got their asses absolutely handed to them yet again by the Mets, which is just the utmost embarrassing. By the Mets, which is never a fun experience. And then the series starts the way it did on Friday with the Yankees blowing a lead late after Aaron Judge hits a majestic go-ahead 3-run homer later in the game, followed immediately by an Austin Wells solo shot. They had gone back-to-back to give the Yankees an epic lead. The bullpen falls apart, as it has done so often for some time now. There is little to nobody out there you could trust at this moment. Maybe with the exception of Tommy Kahnle, who has done very good again of late, thank God, because there is literally just about nobody else you can rely on out there right now. It is brutal. The starting pitching has fallen apart again of late. And the offense, yeah, they've shown some fire, but they also have their games, as we saw earlier on in the week. They still have their games. They don't get a pass, but this weekend they have surely shown some resilience again, very similarly to what we saw for the vast majority of the time in the earlier part of the season when it felt like they would never, ever give up. So that's an encouraging sign again, especially when you factor in the addition of Jazz Chisholm on top of that and potential additions that could still be yet to come. So that's where the hopefulness for the future comes in. But so much to unpack today, guys. So much to unpack. And so much has even happened around the league, and I'll give an update on all of those trades that have taken place, or at least a decent amount of them, because honestly, they're hard to even keep track of how many have taken place in the last couple of days alone. But we'll talk about all of it. Another exciting thing for you, in case you were also wondering when it is I was recording this, I did say because of today's graduation party that I went to, that it would be quite an adventure to figure out when I was going to get this episode in. Well, it turns out that you guys will be getting the utmost entertainment tonight because I actually decided to record this episode here in the evening. The Yankees and Red Sox rubber game matchup at Fenway Park is literally about to start in a couple of minutes from when I'm recording. This episode is not being released until after the game ends anyway. Even if this recording ends before the game ends, this show will not be out until afterwards. But regardless, you guys are going to be hearing me reacting in live time to the game because of the time I'm recording it.
Give me a hell yeah!
Hell yeah, Stone Cold. I know you guys like when that happens. So you guys will be getting this live time reaction when the game starts in just moments. I even have my mic angled in my little special way that I do whenever this happens so I could take glares at the TV and take glares at the notes that I left with myself for my talking points for today's episode and try to multitask like I usually do whenever I actually do this. So that's what I'm saying. We're planning on having some fun today, guys, but I just did want to unpack some things about the team today for some more notes that we had and some overall talking points from things that happened this past week. Obviously, I usually do my individual analysis by running up and down the roster and just really hitting on each player individually. I'll go through the lineup first since I usually like to head towards them more so than not, especially because they have been a huge amount of the Yankees' issues for plenty of games prior to this weekend at Fenway Park. You got Alex Verdugo back in the leadoff spot as of the last couple of days, and despite how putrid he had been, going all the way back to the Yankees and Red Sox prior meeting at Fenway Park, that was really when he started to just fall apart. From then all the way up until this weekend, pretty much. But as of the last few days, Verdugo has actually seen a little bit of a resurgence, which is a big, big relief because, I mean, he was just a big part of their success earlier on. And especially when he was being given those important slots to hit in the lineup, whether it be cleanup or the 5-hole or even going back to leadoff before, or they just tried to move him down, nothing was working for the last month to a month and a half. And he was just a complete and utter rally killer, even after being clutch for a long time. He was clutch against the Yankees then. He was clutch for the Yankees when he first got here for the first couple of months when he was surging. And then he was just a straight-up rally killer who you could basically virtually expect to just roll over a ground ball to second base every at-bat if he wasn't striking out. But now, even in the last 7 games, he's 7 for his last 26, so that's definitely an improvement. And he's just reaching base a hell of a lot more, making things happen, so that's definitely encouraging. But in light of some other very encouraging injury news with a certain young stud that I'll get to in a short while, even if Verdugo is having some recent success, it is still not good enough to hold back the other guy. And I'm pretty sure you guys all know who I am being unnecessarily suspenseful about, but I'm going to keep you in suspense anyway. But the point is, Verdugo has actually seen a bit of a recent surge. He's been a bit better. And especially as long as they continue to keep him in the leadoff spot, you hope that continues because not only is it a very important spot in itself, but it has also been a very massive talking point, one that we have also brought up a number of times here on this show, of how much the Yankees have absolutely blown chunks in the leadoff slot and cleanup slots in the lineup. They have league-low statistics in both slots in the lineup, and you don't need me to tell you how important both these slots are in any given lineup for the players who are in them to produce efficiently. And the Yankees have not gotten that this year from either slot, really, whether it be from injuries or just underperforming. You name it, it doesn't matter. They just have not gotten the production that they need out of either of those two lineup slots. So if Verdugo's going to keep this up for however long he is given, however long a rope he is given here, especially if it's in the leadoff spot, you hope it continues for as long as humanly possible. Juan Soto has been surging again for a couple of weeks now at least. He has definitely been himself once again. Even in the last 30 games, he's 34 for his last 114. He's 24 for his last 64, and even 11 for his last 30 with 4 home runs in his last 7 games. That's good for a 367 average, OBP, on-base percentage of 441, and slugging of well over 900 in that time span. Overall numbers average back up to 309 coming into tonight with 27 bombs, 74 RBIs, OPS well over 1,000 again. Yes, Juan Soto has returned. Aaron Judge, what do you say about the guy? Still himself, very much so. Average up to 314 now. 37 home runs, just hit his 37th last night, deep into the left field Fenway Park night. 95 RBIs. We have a couple of days left in July. August 1st is on Thursday, and it is quite possible that Aaron Judge could actually hit 100 RBIs before the month of August. It is just absolutely absurd. I mean, when else did you hear this sort of a thing? When? I don't know. Maybe literally decades and decades and decades ago? I don't know. That's my best guess. And the game just started, and Verdugo just hit one off the monster. And he's sliding into second with a double. What did we just say? Wow. Wow. Yeah, bro's surging, man. What can I tell you? I mean, how hard everybody, including myself, was on him for about a month and a half now is valid because he really had been just that putrid, but it also does good to tell the truth about what he has factually been doing of late, and he has been on a tear. Just roped one to left field off the monster again, leadoff double. And if you're a Yankee fan, you're probably feeling a certain type of way about tonight's game anyway, because the Yankees usually do not fare well on Sunday Night Baseball. Being on ESPN on a Sunday night is almost a given L for the Yankees, especially when they're at Fenway Park. I mean, hey, it happened again last time they were there, right? Happens all the time. But maybe they can finally break that trend tonight and win the damn series, especially because the O's won earlier today, too, I might mention. The Padres almost came back on them. The O's were up 6-0 at one point, and the Padres made it 6-5 after that. Got really close, but would end up losing still. So the Yankees, it would be in their best interest to win tonight's game, to stay within one game of the O's, especially, as I said before, considering the series the Yankees have coming up next in Philadelphia. But Juan Soto also grounded out. I am all over the street here. Let's try to stay on course. I was just glazing the hell out of Aaron Judge before, the way he deserves. But anyways, the OPS also I wanted to mention. He is stepping up to the plate right now as I speak. But 1131. It's just dumb. Honestly, it's just stupid. It's video game numbers. It's really what it is. He's also 6 home runs away from his 300th career home run already, might I mention. Just wanted to put that out there. But, yeah, he continues to absolutely tear it up. And Fenway Park is actually one of the few parks he actually tends to not hit too well at. Yet this weekend, he is just destroying. And he just did it again right down the right field line. That's going to make it 1-0. Verdugo's going to come home. Oh, my goodness. That was actually a slider off the end of the bat. And Bro still managed to nub it down the first base line. RBI single, Yankees up 1-0. Now, the key is holding that, especially considering who's on the mound tonight in Carlos Rodon. So that's the real key, but it is always nice getting up early because the Yankees don't have much of a habit of that lately, especially because of their starting pitching, always putting them in early holes. So I will never complain about going up early. 1-0 thanks to Judgy. That is RBI number 96. God almighty. God almighty. All right, so Wells is up right now, and then Jazz Chisholm is on deck after him because he's batting 5th. I know a lot of people had a problem with him, expected him in leadoff. Honestly, I did too. But I don't have too much of a problem with it, especially after looking at Jazz's numbers with runners in scoring position this year. My God. So give that man some RBI opportunities as far as I'm concerned. I don't have too much of a problem with it. But yeah, so that's the deal right now. Yanks already up 1-0. Wells is doing better the more playing time he sees. Wow, it's almost like I've been saying that for months on end, and everybody's just been still wanting Trevino even when his bat fell off. Not to disrespect him. I know he's out with an injury right now. But Austin Wells is a young, developing, power-hitting stud of a catcher, and he needs some consistent playing time. And now that he's getting it, you are seeing his numbers continuing to go up, and the power numbers start to take form and some results coming through here. So continue to give the man some more playing time. That is all I will continue to say. Also having some phenomenal, long, drawn-out at-bats, too. That's also the sign of somebody seeing the ball well. Keep it up. Jazz Chisholm, we'll see what he does in his first at-bat as a Yankee and going forward. Gleyber Torres, I'll give the guy credit. Last 2-3-ish weeks, something like that. He has been hitting better. He had that big hit last night in extra innings to add on those 2 extra insurance runs. They ultimately were not necessary because that sacrifice fly, after that nice diving catch last night, would have been enough to finish the game ultimately. But still, insurance runs are always nice. And he has been hitting well of late, but on an overall basis, my opinion still has not changed of wanting him off the team. So I still want Gleyber off the team, even though he has been hitting better. I know that might sound silly to some, but I've already seen the puppet master behind the curtain, guys. I've already seen the show. I already know what Gleyber Torres is made of. I know what's probably still going to happen, and it is not positive. So I don't really care to keep him around. I really don't. I still don't. And Austin Wells with a double down the line into the stands. So it's a ground rule double because of the little wall there down the right field line. Austin Wells, another hit. It's almost like I know a thing or two. So Jazz is up now. Let's see. I was just saying before how good he is with runners in scoring position. Let's see what he does. And the Yankees are also doing this off of Houck, who they usually have a pretty tough time against. So that's very interesting. But I'm not complaining. So Gleyber, yeah, I'll give him his credit. Been hitting better lately, but I don't really care to have him around anymore. Still really don't. And we'll see if he makes it to even Tuesday, if he's dealt anywhere. It's very possible that it could be, especially with Jazz Chisholm being here. I know he's in the outfield tonight. They're saying that they might give him some reps over at third base. Even some rumors that unless Gleyber's dealt, they might give Gleyber some workouts at third base to try to get him used to third base. I would rather stick pins in my eyeballs than put Gleyber Torres at another position he's unfamiliar with and have that turn out to be an absolute train wreck. We've seen how moving him has an effect on him in the past. I'm not willing to do that again. So you want to teach Jazz another position, especially because of how versatile he already is, then you could go for it. But Glaber, not really down for that. That sounds like a nightmare waiting to happen, considering the man is still not even really that efficient at his own position. So why would you move him to another? And Jazz has struck out on a fastball. So now it's second and third with 2 outs. Judgy on third, Wells at second. He foul-tipped the ball into the glove of Wong there. So there's 2 outs now. And Glaber's coming up. Let's see if he can keep his good hitting going. Ben Rice, who was batting after Glaber tonight. He saw some time off, especially with the left-handed pitching matchups nonsense when they were giving J.D. Davis some completely undeserved hitting and fielding time. But in any event, Ben Rice has still been struggling for the most part. He did have that huge double in the 9th inning yesterday when the Yankees got their rally started, so that was definitely a big thing. Maybe could turn things around for him a bit, because that could definitely be a motivating factor. So you hope and pray that it is, because I've put a lot of stock into this kid personally even, and I believe in him, and he's a kid that, I mean, you see the fundamentals, you see the base talent that's there, and you just figure he's going to figure it out, and I hope he does. Just keep on giving the kid more reps. That's just what I say. Just keep on giving him more reps, and hopefully he bounces back. Because I'm still sticking with the fact that I would like to just have him remain the first baseman even when Rizzo's ready to go. I mean, of course, if it just gets to a level that you can't stomach with the Yankees anymore and you want to give Rizzo one more shot, then yeah, I guess. But at least as long as Rizzo is out, you got to keep giving the kid his reps. And Glaber just got a hit up the middle. So now it's 3-0. That's going to drive home both. And he gets thrown out at second. That's what I mean about Glaber, man. I mean, good attempt, I guess. But, I mean, yeah, 2-run single. Definitely added on 2 more runs. That's definitely a big deal. Kudos to him for that. But then it's just something else has always got to happen that's negative. Every time. That's what I mean. I don't know. Whatever. So it's 3-0. They're heading to the bottom of the first now. May God be with us with Carlos Rodon being on the mound. I mean, I know the guy had a bounce-back start finally against Tampa in his last time out, but I mean, the Red Sox have better hitters than the Rays do, so. And Rodon has really just not had it at Fenway Park. I mean, his start at Fenway Park last time was what started his downturn, since he was having a great season up until then. We all thought that the comeback was just in full effect. We just got Duran to ground out in the first pitch, or the second pitch, rather. So it's the first out. So that's a good start, but got to keep seeing how it goes. But regardless, those were my thoughts on Ben Rice, as far as my thoughts on him and what he has been doing of late. But we definitely saw him getting some more bench time this past week, especially amidst J.D. Davis nonsensically getting some more playing time against left-handed pitching. Not that it makes a difference who was ever on the mound, because J.D. Davis was J.D. Davis after all. But nonetheless, I know some people didn't really mind that Ben was out because he was struggling the way he was, but that's someone who you just keep giving reps to. He's still a kid. He's learning. He's only been up for a handful of weeks. Volpe, he's had some decent moments again this past week. Especially had the home run the other night, once again, the game-tying solo shot. But otherwise, the kid is still in many ways just a bit underwhelming to me. So that's the part that makes me sad, if I'm being honest. Had that error in the earlier part of yesterday's game as well, too, amidst Marcus Stroman not being able to get out of his own way either, but that didn't help things. But I still expect more of Volpe, man, especially when you talk about all of the discussions surrounding the leadoff spot and the difficulty the Yankees have had there, because I just look to Anthony Volpe whenever thinking about that, because you think of the hitter that Anthony Volpe should be at full potential. He should be your stereotypical leadoff hitter, and when given that chance with no competition until it just got so bad you couldn't ride with it anymore, he should have taken the bull by the horns and made that his position. He should be the Yankees' leadoff guy. He really should be. If he was playing to his potential and decided to not just turn into a completely crappy hitter for months after starting off the season in an incomprehensibly amazing way. But he did. He turned into a crap hitter, and then they had to move him back to the middle of the lineup. And now he finds himself at the bottom of the lineup as of tonight, for example. Could very well move back up a little bit, but now he's towards the bottom when he should be in the position of leadoff, where that's really his rightful spot if he were playing and hitting the way he should be. like he was at the very beginning of the year for the first month or so, but we all know that that did not last. So, still looking for even more from him. You got Waldo at third base, who has actually really made his presence known again the last few days as he's gotten some more opportunities amidst DJ LeMahieu just continuing to just look more absolutely deep fried than just about anybody whose career may have looked over at the end of their respective careers. None have looked more cooked than DJ LeMahieu, though. And amidst that happening, Waldo's gotten even more chances, especially down there at third base. Usually a bit shaky over there down at third, but has made some really nice plays even on the defensive end the last couple of days, even just in Fenway Park alone. And he's also gotten some big hits even. Been hitting quite a bit better the last few days. In his last 7 games, he's 7 for his last 22, good for a 3.18 average. And even if you look at his last 15 games, he's 12 for 36, which is good for a 3.33 average. So when given chances, he's come through. So that's nice to see. Even Trent Grisham, who's gotten a lot of playing time of late the last few weeks, as we know, getting a lot of looks in center field with Stanton being out and Judge and Soto switching a lot with the DH spot and whatnot. You've seen Trent get a lot of time out there, and he's gotten some massive hits of late. We know that he has his occasional flashes of huge power, and once in a blue moon, he'll come through in the clutch, and he really did yesterday, tying the game when the Yankees were down to their last pitch after what was almost another horrible late-game blown comeback attempt, and he just kept them alive and ultimately led them to victory, helped lead them to victory by keeping them alive when down to the last strike, so even he has made his presence known of late, so that's where the offense has really surged back as of this weekend series. So that's what you love to see. And they're up 3-0 here. Rodon just finished a 1-2-3 first inning. God bless America as a result of that, because we all know how uncommon and rare that is as of the last couple of months. So that's definitely a good thing going to the top of the second. And now I shift my focus more so to the starting rotation. Starting rotation continues to be a pretty big problem. Cole against the Mets, I mean, it really mimicked a lot of what he did in his first time against them. Struggled once again, so after about 3 or 4 consecutive starts where he was starting to look like Cole again, he regressed again a bit against the Mets. Just did not have his best stuff, was getting the cutter just drilled, very similarly to in Citi Field when his velocity was lower and he was going to the cutter a lot more and just getting killed. I guess he didn't learn from the first time around. He was just missing location. Just a bad start. So you hope that he can bounce back next time out. I'd say Luis Gil continues to be the main bright spot of the rotation where we sit now, because even his last time out, he continued his good streak. Only went about 5 innings. I wish he went about an inning longer at least, maybe, but still only gave up 4 hits and 1 run with 6 strikeouts against the Mets in that time, so he continues to just go out there and give it his best, where a few weeks ago it was looking like he might start to, his arm might be starting to get a little bit tired. But he has people thinking otherwise now, which is a huge deal. And then just about everybody else, it is not what you like to really see from them. Much at all. You have Nestor Cortez, who just continues to unravel start by start. Continued to struggle even more so on the road the other night, allowing 11 people to reach base while driving in 4 runs in just 4 2/3. And then I had to listen to him in the postgame after that say that he still feel like he had some good stuff. Sometimes these guys, whether it be just repeating the dribble that Aaron Boone puts out amidst his just gaslighting and Booneisms out there at the press conference, I don't know if it's just a regurgitation of that really with these guys sometimes, or if it's just delusion, or if they're just watching an entirely different baseball game. Or maybe a little bit of everything. Maybe a little bit of all those. All of the above maybe. But in any event, it still drives me insane to hear when guys who have a lot to work on are just seemingly in complete denial about how bad they have been of late. Then you have your guys that own up to it, too, and I appreciate those guys. That's the best you could do, on top of just working as hard as you can to turn things around, is just own up to it. But guys like Nestor, can't stand that. I understand you're trying to be positive and just keeping a good mindset, but there's also such a thing as just blatantly lying while doing so, and that just doesn't help anybody, including yourself, by the way. So Nestor continues to unravel. Marcus Stroman's been shaky of late. Didn't have his best stuff by far again yesterday in Fenway Park. Had a really bad start and was really just pitching in a very frustrating manner when the offense continuously had his back and he just kept on giving it away over and over again. That kind of pitching drives me insane. That's just gutless performance right there. You're just continuously spitting in your offense's face. And I know earlier on the offense had their days where they may have done the same thing, just vice versa with the pitching. And as hard as I was on him, Nestor has been a victim of this, which is why his record is really bad, because he should have a few more wins at least. But, sometimes the pitching would go out there, pitch great, and the offense would do absolutely nothing to help them out. That happened a decent amount too, but right now it's the opposite. You're seeing the pitching do a lot of spitting in the face of the offense, whether it be the starting rotation, the bullpen. They just can't seem to hold a lead, a tie, just nothing. I mean, even just for them to come out in front yesterday, to score 11 runs and go into extra innings to do so, just to seal up the victory. And then even the bottom half of the inning got interesting, once again with Clay Holmes in his second inning of work, who a lot of people are also at their wits' end with. So it's just big old adventure of late. Then you have Rodon, who's on the mound tonight. Obviously, with him, his last outing against Tampa, 7 innings of 1-run ball. That's the first half-decent outing, let alone great outing, half-decent outing even, of Rodon's season in the better part of the last month to a month and a half. In his last 7, he's still 1-4 with a 7.50 ERA. So before that, his ERA was like over 10 with an 0-4 record prior to this Rays start. But my God. Finally, great to see that turnaround happen. And now he worked a 1-2-3 inning in tonight's game in the bottom of the first. So you hope for the best going forward tonight as well. Yankees just went down 1-2-3 in the top of the second, so it's still 3-0. But with Rodon, you don't need me to remind you about how much he's made all of us want to collectively just bash our heads into a wall for a month and a half. But, listen, the Yankees don't really have much of a better choice right now unless they do add starting pitching in their quest as well. I know that we've been hearing rumors that they've been in contact with the Giants about Blake Snell. Deja vu back to the offseason. But unless they do that, I don't really see them adding to the starting rotation, and this is just going to have to be the way it is going out, and they're going to have to figure it the hell out and do what they are getting paid handsome amounts of money to do, especially if your name is Carlos Rodon. So you have him irritating as hell, but actually having managed to bounce back against the Rays and off to a good start at Fenway tonight, we'll see how long that can last. To say he's got a long way to go to win people's trust back, if ever even possible, and to get his numbers back to even being remotely decent is an understatement. So bro has got his work cut out for him, I think it's safe to say. I think I've hit just about everybody in the starting rotation, and when it comes to the bullpen, yikes. Of late, they have been brutal. Like I said before, with the exception of Tommy Kahnle, I would say, good Lord Almighty, they have been bad. Caleb Ferguson, I still have no idea what he is doing on this team. Even had himself yet another lovely outing the other night against the Mets, I believe it was. Jake Cousins, he's got good stuff, but even he has his struggles sometimes. He even allowed another run yesterday. Tim Hill, it's kind of hit or miss with him. Very odd pitcher. Not brutal numbers in his last 7 outings out there. 2.89 ERA in his last 7 outings, so not terrible, but he's also given up some runs in some vital spots here and there. Michael Tonkin, I mean, he started to slip a bit, and that's not too surprising because we know how his career had gone right up until the time he came to the Yankees. We were all kind of waiting for that shoe to drop, and it has started to happen a bit more of late. He had given up 2 more vital runs later in yesterday's game as well himself. Kahnle, like I had said before, he's been one of the guys who has actually been super trustworthy of late. Even in his last 15 outings, his ERA is 1.26. And in 14 innings, gotten 20 strikeouts. So of late, Tommy Kahnle's probably the most reliable reliever out there. Luke Weaver, while he has been one of the better relievers in that bullpen for the vast majority of the season so far, in the last few games, he's given up a decent amount of runs. Last 7 times out there for him, his ERA is up to 5. You've seen his numbers start to uptick a bit, so that's not great. But, I mean, I also can't be too mad at him because, once again, he has been one of the better relievers. The Yankees have used his arm a lot this year, so you start to have some questions if his arm might be getting a little bit tired being in that long relief role and having, for the most part, done a very good job at it. But you start to have some thoughts creeping into your mind about that. Could he finally be starting to get a little bit tired? Could his arm be fading out a bit? I mean, those runs that he contributed to giving up alongside Clay Holmes on Friday night in Boston, too, just brutal. The team had just taken a lead after 2 epic home runs, and you give up a 2-run shot to Rafaela like that. It's just, that can't happen. That cannot happen. The walks in bad spots, the huge hits given up after the offense just lifted you up, just can't happen. And speaking of the guy who gave up runs alongside him, Clay Holmes, just for the most part lately, has been unacceptable too. He's been really acting just more like a thrower rather than a pitcher. The sinkers just are not being located well or at all. And the breaking stuff a lot of the times just hung or just been brutal, missed terribly. He's just been awful. I find myself looking at him a lot and be like, how the hell did you not even have an ERA for about a month and a half or two, bro? Some of these guys have potential to bounce back or stabilize themselves a bit out in there in that bullpen. I do have confidence in them, but because of these struggles, especially of late, and how much some of these guys have been used for the vast majority of the year, especially amidst the rotation being very shaky the last month or so, that's where I was really focusing on in prior weeks when I was saying I really do think the Yankees could afford to just get maybe just a reliever or two. Just one or two. And I really think, especially considering the offensive addition of Jazz Chisholm, maybe along with some of the other names I was thinking of prior, like Rengifo, or maybe some people were mentioning some other names on the Rays that could still happen. Like, once you figure that out and you get some of your huge returns off the injured list, and you just get maybe a reliever or two to figure out that bullpen, then you could start to be really looking solid here if you're the Yankees, especially with a lighter schedule in August. That's what I'm saying, man. So the bullpen, especially when it comes to helping to support the starting rotation whenever they mess up, then just get a couple more of those relievers, man. Don't go crazy with some of the upper-end relievers if you got to just wipe yourself out completely, but just get help for that pen, man. Need help for that. But the starting rotation is really where my main concern continues to be, because if you remember, before the season started, my biggest concern that had the most question marks out of any part of the team, if you remember, was the starting rotation. And for the first couple of months, they very much so pleasantly surprised me. But now you're starting to see some of that surface as the season heads into its dog days of summer. And even for the better part of the last month or so, you've seen it start to slip a bit. So I was saying before the season, Marcus Stroman hasn't pitched here yet. We don't know what he's got. You hope that he stabilizes things a little bit, but don't expect anything crazy good from him, I would say. Probably a middle-of-the-rotation guy at best. Luis Gil, I mean, he was a bit of a wild card coming out of spring training. I definitely wanted to give him the opportunity over others like Will Warren at the time. Not to crap on guys like that, but I wanted Gil to get that opportunity. And with the exception of maybe just, I don't know, barely a handful of starts, he has been massively successful, but he still has his innings limit concern and all that stuff, so you factor all that in. Obviously, Cole dealing with coming back after missing multiple months. Nestor Cortez and Carlos Rodon just being the humongous question marks that they were. And Clark Schmidt, who turned out to be a very pleasant surprise yet again in his follow-up Major League starter season. But now he's down to injury, which makes things even more of a concern with the starting rotation. You hope to get him back as soon as possible. But that's what I was saying. You didn't even know if Clark was going to take those next steps as a starter heading into 2024. You hoped that he would, and he did, but now he's hurt even. So you wait for him to come back, maybe help stabilize things a bit. Hopefully Cole continues to just go down the path of rediscovering himself again and becoming Garrett Cole once again. You hope that Luis Gil holds up, so that would be a really solid 3 right there. But then Nestor and Rodon, I mean, Rodon's got to pitch. Mainly Rodon, I look to him because he was always supposed to be number 2 behind Cole. Him especially, he has got to pitch the way the Yankees pay him to. Has to. He's got to figure it out again. They're in the top of the third. He had another 1-2-3 second inning, so he's looking good once again for the second consecutive start, at least as of now, in the second inning, as of the time I'm recording. But that's got to continue. Because when Clark comes back and you got to move somebody out of the rotation, if it's not going to be Luis Gil because of an innings limit concern, then it's got to be Nestor. So that's why I ease up on Nestor a bit, even though he himself has also been recently putrid again. But it's got to be Rodon. Has to be. He's got to be himself the way he was in San Francisco. So with the team, there are quite a bit of holes to be filled. The Yankees had a really bad last week of baseball. Once again, feels like the 80th week in a row I'm saying that, and that's why I don't really flip out about it as much anymore, because it's just become so redundant at this point, and if I continue to do so week in and week out, your boy's going to pop a blood vessel eventually, and we don't want that to happen. I've been through enough recently already. So You look to what they can do to improve. You try to remain patient for the deadline and try to consider all of the holes that they need to fill. And you wonder, as it says up in the episode title, could enough even be done? This episode mainly centers around the trade deadline coming up. The Yankees already made a move for, even though he's playing the outfield tonight, mostly you've seen him in the infield, particularly at second base, but now they're saying they might put him down at third base. They could still be looking for another potential corner infielder, but I emphasize the importance of corner infield, especially at third base with DJ LeMahieu's career being virtually over. I do like what Oswaldo's been doing of late, but I do not see him as a long-term solution. I still like him just being subbed in wherever you could put him, his versatility and his ability to come through wherever you need him to come through and play wherever you need him to play. I like Oswaldo in that role. I do also want him to get more consistent playing time so those two battle against each other. But if the Yankees could get that solid fit in the corner infield, obviously it's going to be a much harder time to ensure that Oswaldo gets consistent playing time. But you just do what's better for the team, man. If the Yankees get that solid corner infielder, then you play them. You know, whatever's better for the team. That's what you got to do. But Jazz Chisholm has already been acquired from the Marlins. There you go. Yeah, clap it up. We like when the Yankees make moves, especially when it plugs up necessary areas. Still plenty of names out there that the Yankees could very well end up grabbing, and many of them I hope they end up getting because they would really be solid additions to the team and plug some very big holes on the roster, many which names we will get to in just a bit. But you hope that they turn things around for the Yankees because, like I said before, August lightens up. The Yankees have been putrid for the better part of the last month and a half. I mean, even after the embarrassment against the Mets earlier on in the week, the Yankees were 10-22 in their prior 32 games once that series ended this past week. 10-22. They were off on Thursday and have played 2 games in Boston since. They have won 1 and lost 1. So they are 11-23 in their last 34 games, not including tonight, obviously. So in about a month and a half's worth of time spent, just about give or take, you have not even won or just barely have won a dozen games. That's brutal. I can't even begin to comprehend how brutal that is. And that's just the pattern that you consistently see with the Yankees of late. It feels like they win 1, then they lose 3. They win 1, they lose 2. They win 1, they lose 4. They win 1, they lose 5. They win 1, they lose 2. They can never capitalize on the good signs that you occasionally see from them. And in those occasional victories, you see little spurts of the team that we all knew and loved through the first 2.5 months of the season. We see little hints of those teams once again. And then immediately the very next game, it's right back to the worst brand of baseball you could even imagine in your wildest dreams. And for days in a row, until you are starved for yet another win, they'll give one to you just to pull you back in a little bit. And then right back to it once again for about another 3-4 days plus in a row. Never fails. And that has led to just about only one series victory in the better part of the last month and a half, too. Losing just about every series they play. When, again, I'll remind you, at the end of April, when they were in Baltimore, all the way through to the first week of June, once upon a time, they had gone all that time, over a month, without even losing a series. And then from then until now, the planets would have to align for a series to even be won. So you hope that this deadline just gets them back on track at least a bit. I'm not even asking for them to be quite as good as they were in the first couple of months. I'm not sure we'll see that team again. But just don't be nearly as bad as the team the last month and a half. That's all I ask. Be somewhere in the middle of that so you can still finish with a respectable win total. You find yourselves in a very fortunate position not being too far behind the Orioles at all. If you win tonight's game, you could necessarily push the Red Sox back a decent amount, which is what the Yankees really need to do, because the Yankees were once 14 games over these guys once upon a time. And now they're only about 4.5. So you need to win this series, win 2 out of 3, and push them back a decent amount, whether it be about 5.5 or 6 back after this is all said and done. A decent distance, and you could focus on Baltimore once again. And as I was just saying a second ago, the Yankees find themselves in a very fortunate position to even be able to say that, because the Orioles themselves have also been playing horrible baseball. They almost blew today's game once again, like I mentioned earlier against the Padres. They had gotten embarrassed in the prior two, and in all the series before that for weeks now, they have also done a lot of losing. But that's the crazy part. The Yankees can also, on one hand, they can say they're very lucky they're only a game back. But on the other hand, you could also say if the Yankees were even playing just half-decent baseball, they could also be about 10 games over Baltimore right now, well into first place. Because that's just how bad the Orioles have been playing lately, too. So you could say either one, really. The Yankees are fortunate they're not further back, but my God, it could really just be a runaway division if they're even playing half decently the last month and a half, too. That's what makes it even more frustrating. But no ultimate use in going down the road of what could have been. Just focus on what is right now. And what is right now, if you win today's game and you manage to maintain just the 1-game deficit behind the Baltimore Orioles, just make the moves that you have to improve. Get back on track to the point you play at least half-decent baseball, take advantage of the lighter August schedule, and retake control of the division. Go on a run if you can. That's what I'm choosing to do. If the Yankees don't do the other things they have to do at this deadline and they continue to play much of what we have seen the last month and a half, then you rip them a new one. By all means, and I'll be right there with you. But as brutal as it has been, brutal. A lot of people say the Yankees are lucky because, you started off the season so well, and despite your brutal baseball, you're still in the position that you are, only a game back and still as many games over 500 as you are. Maybe so, but also, we are very not lucky because that brand that we have gotten the last month and a half has been just that bad to where just about, I think, only the Chicago White Sox are worse. And at certain times throughout this horrible gameplay, they have been even worse than the White Sox. So I'm remaining patient. Make the moves you got to make. Get it done, Yankees. Get it done. Because it's 2024 now. I hate to mention the long game, but another year of Aaron Judge is going by. This could be, and I hope it's not, but this could be the 1 year that you have Juan Soto. Get it done. Enough is enough. You make your moves. Certain guys come back from injury. You could actually make a run at this thing. But until then, we're all watching you. We are all watching you. Pleasantly surprised that you've already made at least one move, but more has to be done. And just as I take a glance at the TV, I just noticed Austin Wells is standing on second. It's the top of the fourth already, for the love of God. This game's going by pretty quick. Carlos Rodon with a shutout first 3 innings, and Austin Wells has started off yet another inning. He has hit yet another double. Well, actually, there was a bobble in right field, so that may be a single and E9, actually. Let me just check that scoreboard just to make sure that that is what happened. Could very well be a single and an E9. Just checking that real quick. Yeah, they did call it a single and an error on Tyler O'Neill. Okay, so leadoff single, but he's on second because Tyler O'Neill screwed up out there in right field, and Jazz Chisholm is back up. But anyway, just before I was going to do that, I was going to move on to Yankees news, which we will still do. But if the Yankees can tack on yet another run with Carlos Rodon looking pretty damn decent tonight, that would be a lovely thing. It is 0-2 on Jazz, and Houck's 0-2, if he plans on throwing it any time before the night is over, is outside. So it's 1-2. But on to Yankees news, guys. On the subject of the trade deadline, that is obviously the main focus of today. But on top of the trade deadline, I did also mention earlier that I had some very important, humongous injury news to give you regarding one of the Yankees' absolute young studs. This came out of complete left field for me, pun intended. But this actually did really take me by surprise, though. On Tuesday the 23rd, 5 days ago, Aaron Boone took to the media and gave an injury update that I was not expecting whatsoever. This is a man who I really thought we were not going to see back until late August, early September. But that turns out to not be the case, which is very encouraging. Also very encouraging. Jazz Chisholm just moved Wells over to third base with a ground ball, so it's man on third, one out with Gleyber Torres at the plate. But otherwise, the encouraging news is centered around none other than Mr. Jason Dominguez. Now, for weeks now, the Yankees have been updating us on his status, saying that he really wasn't doing much, still some time to go. It's going to be some time until we even see some game action yet again. So, just not encouraging stuff following his oblique strain that he had sustained weeks and weeks and weeks ago amidst being in the minor leagues. But then on Tuesday, Boone gives us the surprise of, I don't know, the last few years maybe? But he actually said that within the next week of him saying this, and since then obviously it has began, he has been in some rehab games in the last few days, but that he would be seeing some rehab games within the next week, which is huge news. Yes, that is definitely worthy of some clapping. But this means that if he doesn't need much time in rehab, guys, we could see Dominguez back within, I don't know, at some point within the next couple of weeks, I would say, at the very least. I would hope that if he's ready to go, even within the next few days, if the Yankees deem him ready and he's completely pain-free, bring him up right now. Just bring him up. So you have him returning, probably within the next couple of weeks, I would say, at latest mid-August. So that's humongous. And then we also know that Giancarlo Stanton is stupid close to coming back, and we even got further detail into that this past week. He's coming back tomorrow against the Phillies. So you got Stanton coming back tomorrow, and we all know his tendency to be ice cold right after he comes back from an injury, especially one that's kept him out for the better part of the last month or so. And he's not having a rehab assignment, which is a little bit nerve-wracking, but we say with this new pitching machine technology that they have that he's been working a great deal with, hopefully he comes back at least decent. I'm not saying just hitting him out of the park like it's going out of style, but at least decent. Factor that in with Jason Dominguez returning, which is what I was hinting to before, along with the trade deadline moves the Yankees may have in store on top of the one they already made. Then you freaking ride, baby. That's what you do. So exciting times, especially amidst this Jason Dominguez news. It's huge. I really thought that we were not going to be seeing this kid for at least another entire month. Some people wanted to bring him up like right away for the Phillies series, but I just, give the kid a few days at least. I think in his first game back, he already got a 2-run single or something like that. Just crazy. He just can't be stopped, this freaking kid. But, I mean, my God. If he's ready in the next week, bring him back. I mean, again, I know Verdugo has looked pretty good, but I mean, it's Jason Dominguez we're talking about. So you just fit him in any way you can. Bring him the hell up. And even if he needs some readjusting time, because it's been probably about 11 months on the calendar since he's seen a major league pitch, some time now. If he needs some readjusting time, well, you let him figure it the hell out. Because it's Jason Dominguez. So that is just some very exciting news. Like I said, with him and Stanton coming back in the very near future, especially Stanton tomorrow, as soon as that. That's what I'm saying, man. Could be some good times ahead for the Yankees. That's why, despite this team tempting me to swan dive off my roof and ensuring I land on my neck, I have certain things to look forward to and certain potential deadline moves to look forward to that's just making me be a little bit more patient. Because I do feel like the Yankees are close enough to make moves that could seal the deal more assuredly than any season in the last few years. Now the question is, as I said in the episode title, could enough be done? Because they do have quite a bit of holes to fill. I do think they need at least a couple of relievers. They need to get another corner infielder, and maybe from then you could ride. But if you only do one of those things, maybe just get one more reliever and ride from here, I don't know. Still going to be a little shaky, so that's why it's going to depend on what happens these next few days. So I'm not completely out of it, but I'm not completely in it either. I am in it to the sense where I'm still rooting for them. I still somewhat believe, obviously. But I'm skeptical. Because I know the Yankees don't always do everything that necessarily needs to be done. But that's the question. Still quite a bit does need to be done. That's why, could enough be done? That's where that question comes from. But get these things done. Get you guys back from injury who are vital to this lineup and can really help to fill it back out once again, like it was once upon a time, months ago, and you go from there. But as far as what else can be done, let's talk about the Jazz Chisholm trade specifically, because I've only mentioned that they acquired him and really haven't said much more about it. Because other than Nick Burdi restarting a AAA rehab assignment as he continues to work his way back for some potential bullpen reinforcements, not too much else to update with on the injury front as per usual with that sort of thing, other than Clark Schmidt is also continuing to work his way back. Obviously, we know his importance to the starting rotation. I certainly think that he would be a massive boost to re-add. But other than that, you look at some of the other names throughout here. I mean, Cody Poteet still working his way back through his second full bullpen session on the 25th, just 3 days ago, spanning between 20 and 25 pitches. Ian Hamilton, also another potential huge injury return. If he is himself, he hasn't been at certain points of the season when he hasn't been hurt, but he's also working his way back. Boone most recently said that he is really getting there with accelerating his recovery, so that's some good news for him. Burdi, I just mentioned, Nick Burdi in the bullpen starting his rehab assignment. John Burdi, despite doing some baseball activity, is not up to full speed as of yet, so they're still waiting on him. And everybody else is God knows when they'll be back. So, other than that, again, just really the deadline stuff to discuss otherwise. And I look at the game right now, it's 4-0 Yankees, and now, right away to start the bottom of the fourth, it's 4-2 as Carlos Rodon just gave up back-to-back home runs to Rob Refsnyder and Connor Wong. That's the Carlos Rodon we've known for the better part of the last month and a half, giving up a home run derby, as bro just cannot keep the ball in the park. So it's 4-2 now. Thankfully, the Yankees did add on that fourth run. Thank God, because otherwise it would just be a one-run game right now, but at least they have a two-run cushion now, even after those back-to-back home runs. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, Ben Rice was the one to hit that sac fly in the top half of the fourth. So, now Devers is up. Oh, God, Carlos. Just get through like 5 or 6. I mean, I don't even care anymore. I just can't believe how hard Rodon has collapsed. I just really can't. How many home runs the guy gives up, it is mind-boggling. He still manages to give up home runs even in his half-decent outings, which he hasn't had in a long time aside from the Rays one. But just make it through 5 or 6. What can I even say? Starters really have to start going deeper into games, too, because that's part of the reason the bullpen has been gassed out, too, which we were all afraid of. God. So it's 4-2 now. Bottom of the fourth. Devers is up with a 2-2 count now. And that's that. But the trade deadline news. The Jazz Chisholm trade, to be exact, it was made yesterday afternoon on Saturday the 27th. And the Yankees had sent back catcher Augustin Ramirez, who was a... Oh, God, sorry. Rodon just... And it's off the wall. So Rodon gave it... And Chisholm just misplayed it. I mean, bro's not used to Fenway Park. I can't really blame him, but the ball went off the monster and hopped way over Chisholm's head, which allowed Devers to make it to third freaking base. So now it's a runner on third, nobody out, and if this run comes home to score, after the Yankees had a 4-0 lead, it could be a one-run game. So this is what I'm talking about. So what I'm talking about, the starting damn pitching, man! Soto had to come in from left field just to get it into third base, but Devers was already there. I don't know. I can't with the starters anymore. I cannot do it. I mean, yeah, they keep on zooming in on Chisholm and talking about him misplaying that ball, but how about Rodon allowing the ball to the monster anyway? How about Rodon? Back-to-back home runs and then allowing one to be hit to the wall once again. What a freaking bum. Anyway, as I was saying, Augustin Ramirez, a really talented prospect catcher that the Yankees had in their system. And Jared Serna was given away as well alongside Abraham Ramirez. They went to the Marlins in the package for Jazz Chisholm. And it stings to see Ramirez go, but I mean, they had to give away someone, I mean, at least half decent to get Chisholm. So the Yankees are very short with catchers in their system now, which isn't great. But I mean, up here right now, I know Trevino's hurt, but they have Trevino. They have Wells, who's another power-hitting catcher who's Major League ready right now as he is playing as we speak. And also, they have Narvaez up with them right now, who isn't anything crazy, but they have 3 catchers. So you don't need to overload your system with 85 catchers, people. I know that there are some out there who are annoyed to see Ramirez go, but you can't hug every prospect. And they have 3 catchers right now in total, so it's whatever, you know? You got to do what you got to do, and you have holes you need to fill. That's it. They wanted Chisholm for his speed, his aggression, his versatility in the field, both outfield and infield-wise. And his numbers don't necessarily completely jump out at you. 249 batting average coming into tonight, 323 on base percentage, 407 slugging. It's good for a 730 OPS, not too bad. 13 home runs and 50 RBIs, even hitting in that really big ballpark, so the power numbers could go up even more. 50 RBIs, a little bit past the halfway point of the season, not too bad at all. So, I mean, that's good stuff that could improve even more so playing in Yankee Stadium or with the Yankees overall. Maybe switching leagues could also provide a good thing for him. Good dynamic switching things, new change of scenery, you never know. And the speed and aggression on the bases, like I said before, he's got 22 stolen bases, which is something the Yankees desperately need. The Yankees don't run nearly as much. I think they went weeks and weeks and weeks without even a single stolen base even. So that aggression is definitely more than welcomed. And I did allude to earlier in the show when it came to validating and rationalizing the Yankees putting him in the middle of the order even tonight when certain people, including myself at least a little bit, expected him in the leadoff spot. His numbers of runners in scoring position coming into tonight, guys. How about a 330 average with a 1,002 OPS and 39 ribbies? Huh? So I know he didn't come through in the first inning, but that's a guy who you try to set up in as many RBI situations as you possibly can. So no matter how you spin it, that is a rather big positive on a team that outside of just this weekend at Fenway Park has had less than no situational hitting ability for the better part of the last month and a half. So I'm happy with this overall. I am very happy with this as a starting move to the deadline. That's my overall prognosis and opinion on this. As a starting move with the deadline days, this is a good, solid move to open up with. Definitely has positive attributes. I know he's outspoken and plays with a lot of fire. Hell, that's something that the Yankees could use, especially with the zombie-like mindset they tend to adapt when things are going badly. I know they like to paint a picture where they just turn the page and move on and try to stay positive, but you just see the zombie-like looks on their faces when they get into their rough times. This is a guy that they could use, in my opinion, and they had concerns apparently at that. Some reports were saying, don't know how true they are, but some people were saying that they were weighing that when thinking about actually officially trading for him. I mean, this is the same team who employed Josh Donaldson, Marcus Stroman, a couple of very outspoken guys, and even employed guys in the likes of Aroldis Chapman and Domingo Germán, two guys who had very shaky lives even off the field, and even had their vast amounts of disasters on the field. So I think Jazz Chisholm being acquired is just fine, and if the Yankees made that be the reason that they didn't, be maybe just a little bit hypocritical. But in any event, I do know that some people say that they would have liked certain other moves potentially more, whether it be a Jonathan India or Luis Rengifo, especially Jonathan India when it comes to second base. Jazz Chisholm primarily being a second baseman. I don't think the Yankees will be going after somebody like India going forward anymore. That was a name that was brought up a lot before. But I do like this as an opening move. They need to continue. They need to do a lot more, even more so within the infield even. But a solid move to open up things, in my opinion, so long as this is not the end. And even though he's not in leadoff tonight, and he's had his difficulty in the leadoff spot, on base percentage throughout his career has not been ideal, and the main priority of the leadoff hitter is to set the table for the bigger guys in the lineup. I'm well aware of that, so on base is probably the most important stat, and Jazz's isn't necessarily quite the best. But he could definitely lead off at times. He's led off plenty in his career. So if you need a leadoff hitter on a day that somebody needs a day off or somebody gets hurt, then you could have your guy in that sense. I mean, unless he just ends up becoming the guy down the line if nobody else is good enough and he proves to be good enough for that position, then he could find himself there in the future anyway. So you have your guy in that sense. But if not, yeah, all the attributes that I said before, on top of the aggression, the speed, the versatility, solid pickup to start things, in my opinion. And most importantly, got to mention this, J.D. Davis was DFA'd in turn of acquiring Jazz.
Give me a hell yeah!
Hell yeah! Stone cold. Oh, God. I know that J.D. Davis is still a human being at the end of the day, but My God, no hard feelings, JD, but we hardly knew you, and the little that we did know you will not be missed. Sorry, buddy, but thank God that's over. Even if he is still just outrighted to the AAA roster, if nobody picks him up, at least he'll no longer be on the 40-man. Just done. Thank God, finally. No more undeserved at-bats, no more auto out. We still have a couple of those guys left. We don't need another. Oh, my goodness. So that's the great news with that, and that's just about all of the Yankees news from this past week outside of the other MLB news of what's already taken place with all the other trades around the league so far, and what may yet still be done. But some trading news around the league just so you are all updated, and just in case I happen to have something here that you yourself have not heard of happening yet. But one of the earlier things to happen was Randy Arozarena going to the Marlins. That's huge. So Randy Arozarena is out of the American League East. That's awesome. So us Yankee fans are happy about that. Yimi Garcia also went to the Mariners from the Blue Jays. James Paxton returned to Boston. James Paxton, also former Yankees, we know. He went back to Boston from the LA Dodgers. The Orioles picked up Zach Eflin from the Rays. That's big for them because the Orioles, they are definitely in need of some pitching. As I'm sure you've been able to see just in the last few days alone, it has been a big reason why they have lost a lot of games of late, or even have won some games they came close to losing that they should have won by a big margin, like today. It's massively because of their pitching, so don't blame them for going down that route. We'll see what they continue to do going forward. Austin Hayes went to Philly from the O's, so picked up Eflin, lost Austin Hayes. Good to see Austin Hayes leaving the AL East as well. He's been a bit of a thorn in the Yankees' side in the past. Danny Jansen went within the division from the Blue Jays to the Red Sox. Pretty sure he's in tonight's lineup. I think he got a hit earlier off of Rodon as well. The Angels closer Estevez, this is huge, went from Anaheim to Philadelphia. That is humongous for the Philly bullpen, man. And just improves an already great Philly team. That is big. Obviously, we spoke about Chisholm to the Yankees from Miami. Today it was just announced that Jesse Winker is headed to the Mets as well. So that's another big move. He is leaving the Washington Nationals. This one just happened today, and this was one of the names that was being rumored with the Yankees. And at one point, it was even being rumored that the Yankees and the Dodgers were in a potential bidding war for him, and then a completely different third-party team came in and swooped him up anyway in a trade. But Isaac Paredes from the Tampa Bay Rays. The Tampa Bay Rays have a plethora of guys who should really interest the Yankees and reportedly actually have. But Paredes was one of them. And it was rumored right up until the trade actually happened with a completely different team. It was rumored that the Yankees and the Dodgers were in a bidding war over him. And then it turned out that just this afternoon, the Chicago Cubs, yes, the sub-500 Chicago Cubs, out of nowhere, trade for Isaac Paredes. So, he's headed to Chicago out of nowhere. Now, Paredes is definitely a respectable corner infielder with some solid offense, but as of late, I will say that despite how good overall that he is, of late, his numbers have been really bad. So if you're into recent stats, then you're happy that Paredes is not a Yankee. But overall, it's a bit of a stinger to lose him because overall he's a solid player. But the Rays still have some other really good choices to pick from. You have Yandy Diaz, you have Brandon Lau, and even some people have mentioned Ahmed Rosario. Now, I know that that's a bit of a less appealing choice for some people, and that's understandable because for a chunk of his career, Rosario was really nothing to write home about. But he's having himself a very nice season in Tampa, and he's another one of the 3 names remaining now that Paredes has been dealt to Chicago. 3 remaining names that could be appealing to the Yankees to help them add to their infield. So we'll still see what happens amongst those names. Honestly, I would be completely fine with any of the 3, but I happen to really like Yandy Diaz. He has really turned himself into a nice veteran player, pretty decent corner infielder. And offensively, I'll gladly take him. I mean, this year coming into tonight's game, he's batting .272, .327 on base percentage, .400 slugging, good for a .727 OPS, .108 OPS plus, WRC plus, not too far off from that. 9 home runs, 47 RBIs. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. He does get hurt every now and again. I mean, even once in his career, he has not even played 140 games, so that's a bit of a caveat. Same sort of a thing for Jazz Chisholm. He's gotten hurt a bit as well in the past, so that's another bit of a caveat that some people have mentioned with Chisholm as well. You get a little bit of that with Yandy, even though he has mostly been healthy this year. But that'd be another solid pickup. Brandon Lau would be really solid, because not only is that another lefty to add to the fold, if you care about this sort of a thing. I mean, I don't really care too much as long as you get hit, but it's always a nice thing to add for balance to the lineup. But Brandon Lau, there's some injury concern there as well. He has had his injury troubles this year too. But otherwise, the guy is a solid hitter. In 57 games this year, coming into today, 257 average, 352 on base, 524 slugging, 876 OPS, and a 148 OPS plus. Usually OPS plus and WRC plus are not too far off from each other. 12 home runs, 34 ribbies, 10 doubles, 2 triples. And even though he has missed time, in the time that he has played, puts up some pretty solid numbers, and I think those would only improve being a lefty at Yankee Stadium. So, honestly, Diaz and Lau, but even Rosario at the year he's having, all appealing options to help out with the infield. Lau is primarily second base anyway, like Chisholm is. That's a bit of the problem. But regardless, you make it work, especially if you could help the lineup even more so to just push them completely over the edge. And when it comes to the injuries, I mean, guys, I think it's pretty apparent now that very few people throughout all of baseball don't deal with injuries now. Just about everybody does. So just put your best foot forward. And unless they literally just never play, just go with the best option and just put your best foot forward. It's the Yankees' responsibility to do so. But also with certain bullpen options, the Rays also have a particular bullpen fascination about them. And that is with none other than Pete Fairbanks, who, if you remember, some months ago, towards the beginning of the year, had my personal favorite post-game interview of all time when he took a heaping hot crap on himself after a bad outing. And I would love to have him here because he's also a solid pitcher. I mean, his strikeout stuff has decreased this year, which is a bit discouraging because the Yankees need more strikeout guys in the bullpen, not less. So that's a pretty decent-sized caveat for that. But also, and I was literally just made aware of this yesterday by one of my good pals on Twitter. I want to give him a shout-out, at Yanks Bar. Thanks for this, brother. I did not know this. But apparently he has, Fairbanks does, he has a syndrome to where when a temperature drops to a certain point, when it gets really cold out, he loses feeling in his fingers, and it's going to really complicate his ability to pitch, which, that's pretty scary. And I don't know if you're going to want to worry about that if you're the Yankees. If you're in October, and it happens to be a really cold day, maybe even the first couple of days of November, if you find yourself in the World Series, God willing, and you're having to worry about that with one of your bigger relief pitchers. Not too sure about that, so that's something to think about, but he's still overall a very skilled reliever. So still at least look into him for sure. And you also have someone like Tanner Scott, who I've brought up a great deal. You have a potential reunion with David Robertson, like some people have mentioned, which I do not think is going to happen. I don't think David Robertson's going to come back here again, but that would be certainly lovely when it comes to what he is capable of in general. I love D-Rob. Don't think it's going to happen, but you do have your variety of bullpen options out there too. That's the point. And as far as other potential infielders, like I said, earlier names mentioned being Luis Rengifo, Jonathan India. India's all right. I think he's a bit overrated from what people are saying looking at his numbers. And again, also another second baseman, which is another thing to consider. When it comes to other second basemen out there that could be better options, I think Brandon Lau would be a better option than him. So just putting that out there too. But a 266 average. His on-base percentage is very good. 369. That's really good. And a 406 slugging. That's when it takes a bit of a hit because he does hit a lot of doubles, but he doesn't have too much pop in his bat as far as homers. So I think a little bit overrated because a lot of people talking about him like he's the second coming. I'm not even saying he's a bad player by saying he's overrated. I think he's a solid player, but there are a lot of people out there who make him literally sound like the second coming, and he's just not. Solid player, but he's not the second coming. And Rengifo, as much as I would like to have him too, he is back from his injury, but since then you're also starting to see a bit of a decline from him, which is not too surprising because he is playing a bit over the back of his baseball card. So, not too surprised over that. Definitely wouldn't be mad over the Yankees getting him. The defense is a bit questionable of late as well, so a bit has changed in that arena. So I'm a little bit more hesitant, but I still wouldn't completely turn him away if he's like the only option left and you still just really need some help. But as I've alluded to tonight, as the trade deadline is far closer than any prior episodes where we had this sort of discussion, my advice is mainly just, especially when it comes to the infield, keep in touch with the Rays. That's my overall opinion. Keep in touch with the Tampa Bay Rays. But we'll see what happens going forward. Plenty of options out there, plenty of potential possibilities. Exciting stuff, man. 2 more days, July 30th. But that's the latest in Yankees news, my friends. And also some updates on how hot the stove has been the last couple of days throughout the rest of the league, and some other potential options still remaining out there for the Yankees with the holes that they still have yet to fill. Before we hit that Yapping Yankees time machine sound effect going into weekly recap, however, just a quick update on the game as well. It is still 4-2 when Devers was on third base with nobody out. Rodon actually managed to strand him there, so kudos to him for that. That's not easy to do. Run on third, nobody out, and not let him come in. So credit for that, honestly. Then the Yankees flirted with another jam with the Red Sox in the top of the 5th, but could not see it through. It was first and second with 1 out. Judge hit a screaming line drive to center field, but it was caught by Duran. That allowed Oswaldo to move up to third, but then Austin Wells grounded out to end the inning. But now, in a bounce back from the bad bottom of the 4th inning that Rodon had against Refsnyder, Wong, and Devers, he now worked a 1-2-3 inning against Westbrook, Duran, and Refsnyder, striking out Refsnyder this time, who he had just given up a home run to in his prior at-bat. So they head to the top of the 6th, and the score is still holding at 4-2, and Chisholm is leading off the inning. So upon talking about what is happening right now, let's talk about what has happened as of this past week in the weekly recap segment. Yapping Yankees Time Machine. God help us. Let's do it. Let's get this over with. So, we start with Monday, the 22nd. As I said before, this was just about the only good game throughout this past week, if you don't include last night. But the Yankees actually managed to score 9 runs in this one amidst Carlos Rodon pitching his first gem in about a month and a half, as I mentioned before. Once again, 7 innings of 1-run ball, still allowing that 1 home run just because he can't help himself, but only 2 hits, 2 walks, and 10 strikeouts, so aside from the ball busting, genuinely a really good outing. Canely and Cousins locked it down after that, and the offense, well, they did their job. Austin Wells' solo shot in the bottom of the 2nd, his 7th of the year, followed by Volpe solo shot, his 7th of the year, make it 2-0 in the 2nd inning. Oswaldo drove in 2 on a 2-run single to make it 4-0. Then after the Rays got their 1 run on a series solo shot off of Rodon in the top of the 5th, from there the Yankees just continued to take care of business, and you knew this was going to be a good day when you saw the next thing that happened in this game. DJ LeMahieu hit his first home run of the year.
Holy crap!
Damn straight, Frank Barone. I mean, my God. DJ hitting a home run. That is so 2023 and back, right? I mean, come on now. But Juan Soto went deep after him for his 24th, and then he went deep again for his 25th, a 3-run shot in the bottom of the 8th to add insult to injury. And as I said before, the Yankees thankfully managed to at least freaking split with the Rays and earn the 9-1 victory on Monday. Then Tuesday started the gut-wrenching series against the Mets in what would end up being a regular season sweep of the Yankees at the hands of the Mets. Just truly unbelievable. I never thought it would happen. I thought the Yankees would at least split this series in the Bronx, but my God, did they manage to embarrass to the highest degree possible. And it's a shame because the pitching, with the exception of Tonkin, really managed to do a pretty decent job. Even Caleb Ferguson got 2 outs in this game unscathed. Luke Weaver, he got in some trouble, but he got out of it. And Clay Holmes was locked down as well. They had him pitch when the Yankees were down, but he had gotten such little work, so whatever, I guess. But the offense had gone up early on a solo shot by Glaber, and I mentioned he's been hitting well the last 2 weeks or so. So there you have that. 9th home run for him to put them ahead, but then Luis Gil would give up his only run of the outing in the top of the 5th when he hit Francisco Lindor with a pitch when the bases were loaded. This inning could have been a lot worse, so only allowing 1 run was a miracle, and you take it just easily. So But then in the top of the sixth, when Michael Tonkin was in, this would end up being the dagger. Jeff McNeil, who'd been having a miserable season up until the All-Star break. Well, since the All-Star break, bro's been different, especially with the power. And this was another example of that. 2-run shot to put them ahead 3-1 off of Tonkin, former Met, of course, so that is extra annoying. And then after an RBI double by Verdugo in the bottom of the sixth, the Yankees couldn't put anything else together whatsoever. So they would end up losing 3-2 in a game that was looking pretty promising throughout the first half of it once again, but they could not manage to claw their way back. So the offense just rolling over again after their good performance on Monday, going right back to doing what they have done a lot of the last bunch of weeks, unfortunately. And the same thing would remain true on Wednesday amidst the ultimate embarrassment. Just deja vu to the Citi Field series, to be honest with you. Garrett Cole, like I said, just an unacceptable start, honestly. When the Yankees really needed him to stop the bleeding here and just salvage at least one lousy game against the Mets. But my God, did he do anything but. 5 2/3, 8 hits, 6 runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. And of all of his runs, most of them came off the home run. 3 separate home runs. Just an unacceptable outing, honestly. That's just all there really is to it. And the offense actually did open up the scoring, if you could believe it. Gleyber Torres was leading off in this game and hit a solo shot to start the game for the Yankees offensively, his 10th of the year. Naturally, Cole gave that back after a solo shot by Tyrone Taylor, but then the offense had his back again when Soto went deep with a solo shot to make it 2-1. But then Cole just fell apart. And in the first few innings, the offense didn't necessarily do him any favors either, but he also fell apart. There's no excusing it. 2-run shots by both Pete Alonso and Lindor. Lindor just continues to own the Yankees. Tyrone Taylor got another hit off of Cole as well. RBI single. Taylor had his number. And then the Mets just piled on after that. Final score ultimately being 12-3. Just an onslaught at Yankee Stadium. Another 2-game sweep. Again, the Mets sweep the season series with the Yankees 4-0 in very embarrassing fashion if you're on the Yankee side. Very embarrassing. So just really, really bad. Really bad. Offense doing nothing. Pitching falling apart either in key situations or just altogether. Just really ugly. Thanks, sweet baby Jesus himself, that the Yankees had off on Thursday. And then on Friday, started this series against the Red Sox in Boston, and what a start it was. Oh my God. Nestor started this game, and like I said before, in a game where he actually had the nerve to say that he still felt like he had some good stuff while allowing 11 base runners and 4 runs and 4 2/3, not going deep enough into the start yet again. That's a choice of words. Sure is. Especially coming from the guy who, again, put out a very bold statement for the entire world to see about how everybody wants to be a Yankee and all of those who talk negatively about them are basically just bitter and jealous. Boy, what a time it has been for him since he put out that statement. Why don't you just keep your mouth shut, Nestor, between your denial of how your start went, that statement. That kind of stuff is the stuff that just really pisses me off, honestly. Not good times for Nestor lately, at all. But in this game, he let them start out the scoring after a sac fly by Tyler O'Neill. Then Volpe hit that home run that I referenced earlier to tie the game at 1. Devers put them ahead right away again in the bottom of the third off Nestor, so Nestor just kept on giving and giving and giving back. That's just what he's been doing lately. Bottom of the fourth, he let them pile on again. RBI double by Refsnyder. Yankees come back once again. Trent, like I said, he's been clutch lately. RBI double, making it 3-2. Verdugo, sac fly, making it 3-3, so they come back again. And then right away in the bottom of half of that inning, once again, Masataka Yoshida's sacrifice fly puts them ahead once again. So Nestor just routinely spitting in the face of his offense, and all the while getting into jam after jam after jam after jam after jam. And in case you missed all the rest of those, after jam. After that, though, a few innings later, that's when the real tragedy kicked in. Kicked off by utter epicness, might I say, for lack of a better term. But Aaron Judge steps up to the plate with Waldo and Soto on base, and bro hits one 470 feet to dead center field It looked like it went under the scoreboard, almost or actually out of Fenway Park, over that triangle sort of seating area in that bleacher section into dead center field where people sit over there at Fenway Park. Well over that. I mean, it's just unbelievable, the ability and power that this guy has. The guy who gets crapped on routinely by people for some reason, saying that he's not clutch. It's funny. Majestic 3-run shot to put them in the lead, 6-4, immediately followed by an Austin Wells solo shot to make it 7-4, only for the bullpen to once again screw it up. Just as they've done a lot of the time of late, screwing it up once again. Luke Weaver comes in, 2-run shot to Rafaela. After that, Clay Holmes comes in to try to lock that down and hopefully close the game out the following inning. You're funny if you thought that was going to happen. Because then in the bottom of the 8th inning, once Weaver had continued it was time for Clay Holmes to come in. RBI double to tie the game. 2-run single by Yoshida off of Holmes to put the Red Sox ahead 9-7 and deliver a bone-crushing defeat after 2 humiliating games already against the Mets. Bone-crushing defeat in Fenway Park. Another embarrassment, another late-game blown effort against the Red Sox at Fenway Park for the Yankees. As if things could not feel any worse. Oh my gosh. So Weaver and Holmes collapse in what would have been an awesome victory. Awesome victory. Oh my gosh. But fortunately, speaking of awesome victories, that did manage to happen yesterday, as I did mention. More constant back and forth action, even more so in this game at Fenway. Marcus Stroman, again, as I said before, just did not have it. Wasn't really helped by Anthony Volpe's defense, as I mentioned before. That invalidated 2 runs, so 5 runs, only 3 earned for Marcus in just 3 1/3 innings. Not a good outing. Didn't strike anybody out. Allowed 9 hits. Just not good. So again, starting pitching, another L. And Cousins and Tonkin struggled as well yesterday, but everybody else managed to get it done, and obviously the offense did what they did late. But yeah, Stroman did not do them any favors, and just the back and forth. Soto put them ahead at first with a 2-run shot to start the game. Made it 2-0. Judge went back-to-back with him with his 37 to make it 3-0. But then again, as I was saying about Stroman, bottom of the first, Red Sox tied it right up at 3. Waldo put them ahead 4-3 with a solo shot in the top of the second. Red Sox retie it and then take the lead in the bottom of the second right after that. So again, Stroman just pitching with just gutless effort, really. Stayed like that for a while. Then Aaron Judge tied the game on an RBI single in the top of the 5th. But then in the bottom of the 5th, right after that, thanks to Cousins, Tyler O'Neill hits a solo shot and puts the Red Sox right back ahead again, 6-5. Yankees retie it in the top of the 7th on a sac fly by Rice. And then bottom of the 7th, with Tonkin on again, blows it again. Bottom of the 7th, Red Sox take the lead right back. Another solo shot by Tyler O'Neill and an RBI double by David Hamilton. It's 8-6. But then the Yankees crawled on back again. Another testament to the second day in a row of the offense being resilient. Again, they have these days where they show shades of their older selves when they were unstoppable. And it pulls you back in. It's very aggravating. Thrilling, but aggravating. But Aaron Judge, RBI double to make it 8-7. But Juan Soto had a costly base running. Well, not ultimately costly because they would end up winning the game. But if they would have lost the game, it would have definitely been costly. He ran through the stop sign that Luis Rojas gave him after Judge's double. Tried to make it home behind Verdugo, but was thrown out by far. He was a dead duck. Ran through the stop sign to do so, which is never a good look, especially when you do so and you're out by that much. Not good at all. And so the scoring had to stop there at 8-7, when it could have been 8-8, because especially after that, if Soto remained on third with just 1 out, Wells actually hit a fly ball after that was deep enough that would have allowed Soto to score on a game-tying sac fly. So at first, that was not good. Fortunately, though, in the top of the 9th, Trent Grisham once again bailed out that poor base running decision with an RBI double to tie the game at 8 with the Yankees down to last strike. Unbelievable stuff, honestly. They go to extras. Clay Holmes keeps them off the board in the bottom of the ninth. Actually had his stuff back for once. Thank God. It's about friggin' time. But top of the 10th, Wells hit a sac fly. Glaber added on those 2 extra runs of insurance on that double. Speaking of double, Verdugo just hit another one at the top of the 7th. It's raining hard at Fenway Park right now. Yankees still up 4-2. But he hit another double just now, so Verdugo's still doing very well. But yeah, that put the Yankees up 11-8, and that was the final in an unbelievable back-and-forth effort last night. And the Yankees are doing what they're doing right now. It happens to be still 4-2, like I said. Runner on second, 1 out, being Verdugo, being the runner on second, and Soto's up at the plate. Hopefully the Yankees can get more insurance, because with a 4-2 lead, I am not comfortable. I also said earlier on in the show, though, as far as what is ahead, Yankees have a tough next 3 days ahead of them, man. They're heading to Philadelphia to face the Phillies. It's going to be tough. Unless, again, they happen to win this game and they continue that goodwill into Philly after hopefully making some even more moves with the deadline too, possibly. I mean, who knows? But tomorrow night's game, just as far as what is ahead for the next week, so you're aware, tomorrow's game is at 6:40 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow night for the Yankees is an Amazon Prime Video game, so it's a Monday night Prime, not Wednesday. Wednesday's back on Yes, so they're switching it up a bit here with the Prime broadcast. And for a pitching matchup, it's supposed to be Luis Gil against Zach Wheeler. That ought to be crazy. Tuesday the 30th, also 6:40 p.m. in Philadelphia, Garrett Cole against Aaron Nola. Another solid pitching matchup right there. And then on Wednesday, to end the series, 12:35 p.m. Eastern. Interesting start time there to end the series in Philly. It'll be Nestor Cortez against Christopher Sanchez for the Phillies. So that's your pitching matchup for all 3 games, and the times and where to watch all 3. Tuesday and Wednesday will be on Yes, of course. Thursday, the Yankees are off. And then Friday, they will return home to the Bronx for a 3-game weekend set against the Toronto Blue Jays. No pitching matchups announced yet for this series at all. But Friday the 2nd, it'll be in August already. It's hard to believe. This will be the first August game. That'll be at 7:05 Eastern at the stadium. 1:05 Eastern on Saturday the 3rd. And then Sunday the 4th, when we shall yap again, that game will be at 1:35 p.m. Eastern. That's the recap, guys. So as we head over to the social media segment to wrap up the show here, as we get ready to end, pitching change for the Red Sox in this game right now. Juan Soto just walked again. So it's first and second, 1 out. Judge coming up to the plate. Yanks still up 4-2. Not too much has happened in multiple innings since Rodon gave up those back-to-back homers. And it's been multiple innings since the Yankees have done anything offensively. Hopefully they make me say otherwise right now. But the social media segment, I'm sure you can imagine, has to do with the trade deadline, obviously, considering that is what's on everybody's mind for the next couple of days. So, quite simply put, social media segment, open-ended question once again this week. We return with it after not having one last week. Yanks have already acquired Jazz Chisholm. Which other moves do you want to see made before Tuesday's deadline? I've made my thoughts more than clear on this. I would like to see at least 1 reliever and 1 more infielder, preferably corner infielder. But that's just what I want. I would love 2 relievers. That would be friggin' fantastic. But at least 1 more of each. I would love Yandy Diaz or Brandon Lau. I guess I'll take Ahmed Rosario if that's the move. I know he was pulled in the Rays game yesterday, and that got some people talking with a potential trade with the Yankees, but nothing ended up happening with that, at least as of yet. And with the bullpen, I would like at least 1 of the 3 that I mentioned before. Pete Fairbanks, even though I know he comes with his concerns. Like either him or David Robertson or Tanner Scott. That would be wonderful. Let us begin. First up, we have at Omaha Yankee Fan 1 saying 3rd baseman, 2 relievers, and a starter would be nice. Yeah, I would love those 2 relievers and a 3rd baseman. That would be lovely. I really don't think the Yankees are going to be getting a starter. I mean, if they get Snell, that'd be pretty wild, especially considering it being deja vu from the offseason. But I don't see that happening. I think they're just going to ride with what they have now in the rotation and just wait for Clark to get back to further improve things. But, I mean, hey, if they add there, then they add there. It can't hurt, especially with how the rotation has been. Judgy stepping up to the plate against Greg Weissert, who just entered. Familiar face. So that's cool to see. Up next is at Cavs BSB 16. Says another infielder, preferably at third base. 2 relievers, including a closer. That would definitely be ideal, especially with Clay Holmes doing what he has done lately. At Frank Florida 07 says pitching is needed the most. I would agree with that. Because at least with the lineup, you got Jazz now, and Jazz isn't going to knock your socks off, like be the best hitter in baseball, but he's definitely a nice addition, at least especially to start. I do hope they add another infielder, but nice start to things. And with a returning Stanton and a returning Dominguez, the lineup does have things to look forward to. But the pitching needs help. I know you have Clark coming back, and eventually Ian Hamilton's going to come back, but both of those guys are a bit further off, and you could afford to have a bit more help with all the burnt-out arms and just lack of talent otherwise in other lacking areas, particularly in the bullpen. So I definitely understand why you would say that. And Judge walks. There you go. So now the bases are loaded, and Wellesley is up with the bases loaded. He's 2 for 3 tonight. Single in that E9 and that double as well. See what he does against Weissert. Oh, he flies one out to left. It's deep. Could it be off the monster, please? All right, Ref Snyder caught it in the corner. That's going to be a sac fly. That gets another run. Awesome. Verdugo came home to score. Sac fly for Austin. He's having himself a nice game tonight. I'm telling you, bro keeps on getting more playing time. You're going to see more and more of this. I'm telling you. Got to believe in what I say, guys. So that looked like he got way under it. I didn't expect it to go that deep, but Ref Snyder caught it way in the corner, in the left field corner, and right in front of the wall. It's good for a sac fly, baby. It's 5-2. So the Yankees getting some insurance back up by 3. Like to see that. Got an opportunity for more. First and second, 2 outs now. Jazz is up at the plate. Having himself a bit of a rough Yankee debut. Let's see if he can come through here. First pitch, a strike. See what happens. At Dan B6237 says bullpen. Anyone. Yeah, that and one more bat. Those seem to be the priorities. How about some specific names here? At Joe Yank, though, says Jack Flaherty, Tanner Scott, another reliever. You also have Matt Chapman, Isaac Paredes, or Ryan McMahon if he's available. He's my number 1 option for third base. Yeah, obviously you sent this before Paredes was dealt, so I'll disregard that. Jazz just grounded out to first. All right. Inning over, Yankees add on one more, 5-2, heading to the bottom of the 7th. They're going to stretch at Fenway. But, yeah, Tanner Scott would be awesome, as I've said. Chapman, yeah, he'd be fine. I'd be okay with Chapman. Ryan McMahon, yeah, I don't think he's going to go anywhere, but I've constantly heard him as a potential dark horse candidate. I mean, we'll see. I don't think he's going to go anywhere. Jack Flaherty would be, yeah, that'd be nice, too. But, yeah, listen, I'd be fine. If they got Tanner Scott and Matt Chapman, fine. But I really like Tanner Scott and Yandy Diaz. I know Brandon Lau's at second base, too. You want more of a third baseman, but, man, Brandon Lau's a good hitter, too. Certainly is appealing. Let's keep going. Rebecca at Peace Now for Life says, I'd love for them to get Fairbanks, Tanner Scott, and Paredes. That would make this team a whole lot better. Get it done, Cashman. Well, yeah, Paredes is done now. I know a lot of these replies probably came through. I did ask this question before the Paredes acquisition. So, unfortunately, that invalidates a lot of these replies that mention Paredes. But Fairbanks, yeah, despite his concerns, I definitely think he would be an electric guy to have on the team. Tanner Scott, abso-freaking-lutely. At Evan Wetzel 4 says, at this point, I'd go hard for Yandy Diaz, Pete Fairbanks, and Garrett Crochet. Yeah, Crochet, if you're going to go down the route of starting pitchers, yeah, he's definitely pretty appealing. ERA in the low 3s, high strikeout guy, which again, yeah, the Yankees need high strikeouts, I mean, especially in the bullpen, but even if there is to be a starter, high strikeout guy in Crochet. If you're going to get a starter, that's another appealing option. So a good mention, Evan, honestly. That is one that I Honestly, it slipped my mind, if I'm being honest. So many friggin' names out there, it's hard to miss at least one person. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't see guys like him and Jack Flaherty, potential starting options, actually coming to fruition. I don't really see that happening. As awesome as they would be in their own individual rights, I don't really see them happening. But good mentions, worthy mentions, of course, no question there. At Laura_Icemont, my buddy Laura says, Jack Flaherty and any one relief pitcher. Not one of our bullpen guys is to be trusted 100%. It surely feels that way. It definitely does. Wow, Rodon's actually back out there for the 7th. I'm a little surprised for that. His pitch count's high. Heading into the 100s, but he just got a fly out to start the bottom of the 7th. So, hey, he's going deep into the game. So, Rodon, tip my cap. Other than that back-to-back home runs time with Ref Snyder and Connor Wong, another solid outing for Rodon. I really didn't think it was going to happen, considering the Red Sox do have better hitters than the Rays, and the Rays were his first solid outing earlier in the week in about a month and a half. But he's mixed his pitch as well tonight, which is really the key. He was so over-reliant on his fastballs when he was continuously getting bombed and just refused to freaking adjust. But here he is here. See what happens when you mix your stuff, brother? Jesus. Outside of those back-to-back home run times, really solid outing by him. And he's still in. About to throw his 105th pitch. It's good stuff. But yeah, guys, it seems like the primary focus with everybody's pitching, as to be expected. At Herney51 says, Paredes and Fairbanks and Scott. Yeah, Fairbanks and Scott would be awesome. Paredes obviously off the board now. But yeah, some good relievers there. Mentioned them quite a bit. At Bronx2216 says, stable pitching, any stable pitching. I don't care who, and a deep review of all coaching staff and the analytics department. Yeah, we've spoken of how much of a problem the Yankees' analytics have been. Not just analytics overall. Whenever the Yankees do something stupid, people are very quick to just blanket blame all of analytics. Some of the stupid things the Yankees do, like earlier on in the week, for instance, batting J.D. Davis, a complete non-factor, the biggest automatic out in the entire league, behind the greatest hitter on the planet in Aaron Judge. That's not just an indictment on analytics overall. That's an indictment on the Yankees, because I promise you, out of all 30 teams in Major League Baseball, only the Yankees would take someone like J.D. Davis, DFA'd from the A's, having a terrible season, showing no promise whatsoever prior in the few opportunities he has gotten, and having not played for about 3 weeks straight since the 4th of July, only they would take him and put him behind Aaron Judge, and expect Aaron Judge on top of that to get even a single pitch to hit. So these things are an indictment on the Yankees. Playing guys like him, playing guys like Jahmai Jones, and sandwiching Soto and Judge with players like this. Only the Yankees do things like this. So yes, if you're talking about the Yankees specifically, or the analytics department that belongs to them, yes, they deserve to be analyzed. For a lot of different reasons, for a lot of the stupid things they've done for years. They've also done some smart things. Obviously, not everything's going to be good, not everything's going to be bad. But my God, like a decision like that earlier in the week, for instance, sandwiching those two hitters with Jahmai Jones and J.D. Davis? I mean, my God in heaven, especially J.D. Davis. Come on now. So yeah, I'm fine with that latter part of your reply, my man. Totally. All right, let's just do a few more, because I literally just realized we are over an hour and 45 minutes in. Holy mother of pearl. I lose track of time quite easily. Rodon was just taken out of the game, by the way, after a single was hit off of him. And now on the mound is Mr. Jake Cousins, and he just gave up a bloop hit to Rafaela. So now runners are on the corners with one out. See if the bullpen can hold it up. Now, I am not confident. So there you go. We'll see what happens. I'll be shocked if not at least one run is given right back after the Yankees just got it in insurance in the top half of the inning, which is a good thing that they did at this point. Looks like Dom Smith is going to come up to pinch hit with runners in the corners and one out. Great. Ah, boy. All right. Next up, we've got at XPukeX. All right, then. Saying Tanner Scott all the way. I'll take Fairbanks too, but I really don't like him as a closer either. Yeah, I know. There are the concerns that I mentioned before. I still do like Fairbanks, but yeah, there are some caveats to him. So I don't blame you for saying that, but yeah, Tanner Scott would be freaking lovely. That goes without saying. Up next, we have my good friend Spencer at Musician DMD. I've got to give a quick update on my good friend Spencer. I even told him that I would. Spencer's been in my thoughts week in and week out in light of his eyesight news that hit months ago. I gave a shout out for it a while back and have been more than pleased, just honored to have him still responding to my social media segments through his lovely family, even despite everything he's going through, and even having been checking on me constantly the last 2 weeks after my car accident. And he's got everything that he has going on. He was basically completely blind for Spencer. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but it's been a long time now. It's been at least a couple of months, if I'm not mistaken, right? It's been some time now. And just been thinking of him week in and week out. My mom's been praying really hard for him. And because my mom's a religious Yapping Yankees listener, obviously, and I've spoken about Spencer at length on here, gladly honored to do so. But I'm also very honored to and very excited to give an update that Spencer has humbly requested that I make on the show as far as his current eyesight condition. I'm so happy for you, my friend. So happy. He made a video about it on his Twitter the other day, but he also went into it in further detail personally with me today, and I just cannot imagine how overjoyed you are, my friend. This is a guy who was fine, and then he lost his eyesight. Can you imagine that happening to you? I don't know if I'd be able to handle that. I really don't. I truly don't know. But this man has been a pillar, a fixture of strength, and it looks like it's starting to pay off, perhaps. Some of his eyesight is starting to return. He said it's nowhere near full capacity, can basically only see silhouettes, and the distance of his vision is very limited. But my God, am I happy to report that his eyesight is at about 5% capacity. And let me tell you something, you might say, oh, what, only 5%? Hell no. That is a vast improvement over nothing. Can you imagine having nothing and you even see at least a little bit? If you can even just remotely see your family's faces again, guys, that makes all the difference. Absolutely all the difference. He says everything is still black and white. And as I said, the distance of his vision is still very limited. Something's too far away or too small. He can't really see it, but he's no longer completely blind. So from going completely blind to just very visually impaired, as he put it. It's awesome. He said he's able to see his daughter's faces again. Spencer, I could not be happier for you. I'm overjoyed at this news, honestly. When I saw that video yesterday of you saying this, I was grinning from ear to ear uncontrollably. So happy for you, my friend. And I hope it's only up from here. And for you constantly checking on me with everything I have going on top of what you have going on, truly a great guy here, guys. So if you are on the other end just listening to this, give this guy a round of applause. Yeah, honestly, go right ahead. Completely deserved. 100%. Spencer, up and up from here, my friend. But as far as the social media segment, Spencer did reply once again this week, saying, in an ideal world, I would like to acquire Mason Moore. I have lost all confidence in Clay Holmes. That said, Mike, and I hate to sound pessimistic, yeah, because you're usually a very optimistic guy, Spencer, so yeah, I can understand why you hate to sound that way. It's unlike you. But the Yankees at 150 games, they're gone. I think they've lost all of their mojo. I think that the team we see now is what the Yankees are. It's very hard to resume winning. Even with Stanton coming back, I don't foresee the Yankees starting to win with regularity again. It pains me to say it, but that's what I think is what is happening. There aren't enough trades to fix the Yankees. Well, that's basically the overall idea of today's episode, Spencer, amidst talking about everything, with the main title of it being, Could Enough Be Done? You're saying no. I'm saying I don't really even know right now. If they make the moves that they have to, I'm actually pretty confident. I don't know. Again, as I said before, I don't know if they'll be the team that we saw in the first couple of months, but am I confident in their chances of at least decently improving from what we've seen over the last month and a half? I'd be pretty confident in that. About the playoffs, I don't know. A lot of that depends on what they're yet to do. But getting Jazz, that's a good start. Also resulted in DFAing J.D. Davis. Huge right there. Stanton coming back, Dominguez coming back, make any other moves necessary, at least another reliever or another infielder, get Clark back for the rotation. I know a lot has to happen, but a lot of that is internal. A lot of it is internal. So, but I understand. Listen, this last month and a half, if not for at least waiting to give them the chance to do what they got to do at the deadline, this month and a half has been the definition of demoralizing. So I can't really blame you for feeling that way, my friend. It's been rough, but let's give it another few days. And if they do what they got to do, see what happens from there, one day at a time. Also, Jake Cousins just got out of that inning without allowing any more runs. Humongous job by him there after the bloop hit by Rafael. It's still 5-2 in the top of the eighth. Let's seal the freaking deal, boys. Glaber's leading off the inning. Oh, my gosh. All right, let's do like 3 more. Next, we have at Phoenix 2042 saying they still need a third baseman and reliable relief pitcher or two. Maybe one name brand relief pitcher and one underrated guy that can coach up. They're good at that. The rotation has been shaky lately, but starting pitching is extremely expensive, so probably a long shot to get anyone good. Yeah, that's my exact thinking with the starting pitching that I was basically trying to say before. So I completely agree with that, but yeah, at least if you get like one no-name relief pitcher, you're absolutely right. They tend to throw them in the Matt Blake lab, as they tend to say, the Blake lab, and turn them into somebody. But yeah, you definitely need at least, I think a reputable relief pitcher would be really important here. So completely agree with that. Corner infielder preferably, but definitely another infielder at least. And at least one good relief pitcher. Got to do it. All right, so Gleyber Torres got on with an error, and then Ben Rice just shot one into the left center field gap. Glaber's on third. Rice should be at second. Second and third, nobody out in the top of the eighth. The Yankees have something else cooking. Love this. Love this. It's looking good. Ben Rice sack flying, now a double, not having a bad night. Keep this kid in. Keep letting him get his reps and figure it out. That's what you got to do, like I said before. Let's get some more runs, boys. Hell yeah. All right, let's finish up here at the usual final 2. First up, my beautiful girlfriend at Vic Salimo says pitching, pitching, pitching. Especially with what we saw the last couple of days. We just need to get guys who can shut it down. I mean, hell yeah. I mean, some would argue at least another infielder too. I would, but I do not blame anybody for specifically mentioning pitching, especially with how the bullpen's been and how irritating the starting rotation has been more often than not for the better part of the last month or so. But babe, couldn't blame you at all. Last but certainly not least is my mom, Julia Gina Scudero, and my mom says, credit to you on reporting on this team so well, even if it is painful, Mike. Thanks, Mom. I'm very happy they made a move of acquiring a potential leadoff hitter, or just hitter in general, and a good one at that. I think it'll make a pretty big difference to start. But to answer your question, what more do you think we need to do before the deadline for this team? Pitching. That's all, folks. Come on, Yankees. Do it. Yeah. I mean, I agree. Jazz is definitely a good start to it. I would like at least one more infielder, preferably a corner. But, yeah, pitching's got to be it, first and foremost. Even if that takes precedence over the next infielder, if they are to acquire one, I'm inclined to agree, Mom. A lot of emphasis on pitching. I'm inclined to agree with all of you guys. Only time will tell. It has been an action-packed, much more energetic and fun Yapping Yankees episode, much more so than last week, if you ask me, but also very long. If you stuck with this the entire way through, over an hour and 55 minutes, guys, I got to give you all the credit in the world for doing so. Honestly, thank you so much for sticking with me. A lot to talk about today and a lot to unpack, while also reacting live to tonight's game at Fenway Park. Rubber game matchup over there to end this 3-game set. Hopefully the Yankees can finally grab a 3-game set against the Red Sox like they should have in their last meeting at Yankee Stadium, if not for that putrid first game loss. But for all the reasons I mentioned just now and even earlier in the show, this win is completely necessary, especially considering who the next opponent is. But hopefully the rest of this game goes well. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode, but that is all for episode 228 of Yapping Yankees today. I'll bring some more in-game clips back for next week, but today did see the return of plenty of sound effects, which is always a fun time. But as I say very often, I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it. Few of my usual reminders. If you have not already, please remember to follow me on all social medias. Facebook fan page, Mike Scudero NY. Twitter or X is at Mike Scudero, and Instagram is Mike Scuds97. Subscribe to Yapping Yankees on all 4 of the platforms it is available on, my friends. That is YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Like, subscribe, comment, wherever you may be listening, to show your love like you always all do such a great job at doing, my good people. And wait a second! It's down! Oswaldo, right center field! It's 7-2, baby! Let's go! Damn, he hit that a long way. Went over the little wall. Oh, my God. Yankees had on 2 humongous runs late in the top of the 8th. 2-run ground rule double for Waldo. It's 7-2. Let's freaking go! Now Verdugo's back up. This is what in the hell I love to see. 7 runs on Friday despite the disgraceful loss, thanks to the bullpen. 11 runs yesterday. 7 so far today. So if you take where they're at right now with any more runs being scored, that is a total of 7 plus 11, that's 18, plus 7 more, 25 runs so far this weekend in the offensive resurgence after the embarrassment against the Mets and after the frequent embarrassments against the Rays during last weekend and their 2 losses against them. Awesome by the offense. Thank God. If this is what they're doing now in their resurgence, and guys like Stanton and Dominguez aren't even back yet, my God. Hopefully it gets even better. Oh, Verdugo just fouled the ball off his foot. Ouch. Walk that off, big guy. Yeah, he's walking around. I think he'll be okay. All right, where the hell was I in my usual outro? ADHD. Anyway, if you've missed any Yapping Yankees episodes in the past, and you can listen to episodes 34 up to 228 today on YouTube, and every single Yapping Yankees episode that has ever existed from episode 1 to today, those are all available on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. But once again, I thank you 3,000 for listening to me yap today, my good friends. I have been your host, Mike Scudero, as always, and we shall yap again next Sunday, August the 4th, when I come at you with episode 229 of Yapping Yankees, the first August episode and first post-deadline episode. I imagine we will have a lot to talk about. Hopefully, we'll have a lot to talk about. All good. But until then, guys, hang in there. Be patient. Please stay safe. Look out for your loved ones. Go ahead and kick life's ass this week. And let's hope and pray the Yankees just do what they got to do and have at least a half-decent time in Philly. Grab the games they got to grab against Toronto next weekend. And also, by the way, real quick, speaking of Toronto, let's not do a Chad Green reunion. Bro has gotten very lucky this year. Another low strikeout guy. And you know how that former Yankee thing usually ends up when they usually return back here, unless their name is David Robertson, at least as far as bullpen pitching is concerned. But anyway, guys, let's just hope the Yankees do what they have to do, and you have yourselves a lovely week, and I will talk to you on the 4th. Take care, and let's go Yanks!